Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to our competitive Cyber Dragon series, or our regional prep series as I like to call it. And today's video, I just want to talk to you guys about our Dogmatika Cyber Dragon deck that we took to locals and how it did, and if we're going to decide to stick with it or not. So, for anybody who hasn't seen an episode of the series, this series is basically us trying to get a regional or higher top with our favorite deck, which is Cyber Dragons, by trying different versions, different techs, until we eventually can get the goal of a top. We have regionals coming in a month, actually in 2 and 3 weeks, and then another one the following month. We're going to attempt to top one of them and see how far we can actually take this deck. Now, before I start going into what happened at our locals, I got a message, a comment on one of my videos talking about how they believe that the best version of Cyber Dragon deck is the pure, going second OTK. Now, I've played pure second going OTK the entire time I've been a Cyber Dragon player. And while I love that version of deck, just trying to break your opponent's board, blow them out, there are so many bricks in the deck, and the deck can be so inconsistent sometimes. And sure, you could have all the cards in the world to blow your opponent out, but if you can't break your opponent's board, then it doesn't matter. The deck has played the same since our last wave of support, and I came back to the game in 2020, and that's all Cyber Dragon pretty much has been. And I'm trying to minimize on bricks, maximize on effectiveness. Like, the reason I was playing Dogmatika is because Dogmatika gives Cyber Dragon a first turn board that's actually pretty strong, with a Dragoon, Winda, Infinity Winda. Hell, just having Winda period can shut down some decks. But it still has the OTK potential, which I'll talk about what happened this weekend. It just needs more, and that's what we're trying to do with this version. Though, branded is still another viable option if you're going for straight OTK, because you just load your deck up with board breakers and literally branded fusion 1 card OTK. It's nuts. A buddy of mine actually wants to start messing around with that. But we're here to talk about this deck and how we did this week. So, this week we had 5 rounds for our locals. Our final tally was 2-1, and when I get into the losses, it actually wasn't as bad as it could have been. So my losses were to Pearly, because I had no idea what the hell was going on. I have never played against Pearly. I've never looked into it. I had no interest in the deck at all. I know it's meta and I should definitely learn the matchup, but I didn't know what to stop. Like, it was a bad day. And then we lost to Marine Cess, which was kind of the opposite. I still had no idea what was going on, but not because it was completely irrelevant. And the dude I was playing was kind of a jerk. Was barely telling me what he was doing. He was just kind of doing things. And then he was being like super arrogant. It was just not a fun time. I kind of mentally checked out of the match before I even really got into it. And when I tell you some of the sides I made, like, it came down to, I need to know matchups before I start making decisions. Because the decks I did know, I was absolutely able to smash. We did have one draw against Gold Pride Punk, which was pretty cool. That just was a long ass game. We ended up, he won round 1, I won the second game, but we ended up going into time and we ended up with a draw. But anyway, back to the beginning of the tournament. Our first matchup was actually up against Sprite, and that match went hilarious. So our opponent won the dice roll, went first, and basically had to pass turn. He showed me his hand afterwards, and it was bad. I think he had one thing he could have done, and he just didn't do it because he didn't think that was going to end up with a blowout. So my opening move was just Galaxy Soldier discarding Hurts. I expected completely to get hand trapped. I discarded Hurts, special summon Galaxy Soldier starts Galaxy Soldier, Hurts searches Cyber Dragon. Discarded, ended up going into a Nova, summoned back Cyber Dragon. I ended up proceeding to battle phase, swung with Cyber Dragon, swung with Nova, banished Cyber Dragon to make Nova 42. So that's already 6,300 damage, and then the last one of the other cards in my hand was Cyberload Fusion, so we just went into a Rampage and swung. Just OTK'd him on turn 2. Now, game 2, he ended up winning, but not for anything that he did. So we ended up siding in Droll and Lockbird for that match, and we cut him under Droll like immediately. So he has to basically play around not being able to add any cards to hand, which kind of sucks. Don't get me wrong, Sprite can do it, but it definitely nerfed what he was able to get on board. We were able to break his board with a combination of Yugioh and Altanin, but I couldn't kill him because I made a humongous misplay. So he Ibly locked me. For anybody that doesn't know, that is this card. So Nightmare Corruptor Ibly. When this card is normal summoned, you can target one link monster in your graveyard special summon to the field. This card special summon it to your field so it points to this card, but changes attack to 0, also negates effect. This is the big one. You cannot special summon monsters except for link monsters. That applies to whoever controls this card. If this card in its owner's control is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it to your opponent's field in defense position. So he gave it to me, tried to force me to only be able to use link monsters. Where if you guys look at the link monsters I have, I couldn't do anything with this. Like, the only thing that might have been able to do something is Secure Garnet, but it can only be link summoned with a Cyberse link monster, so I couldn't do anything at all. So I did one of the only plays, that Cyber Dragon could do. I tributed it. I tributed it for Galaxy Soldier. Unfortunately, Galaxy Soldier searches only when it's special summoned, so I wasn't able to get an ad off that. Otherwise, I would have had Infinity, which would have been dope. But I had normal summoned it. I duality'd Galaxy Soldier into Rampage, use Rampage to dump Hertz and Core, forgetting that I had already normal summoned. So could I have tried to play the game? I did, but I was so mad at myself after that he just, when he went back to his turn, he started doing stuff, and I just didn't even let him finish his combo. I said, you know what, you got it. We went to game 3. I went first, and one of the big problems I was running into with this deck was the fact that I was never seeing my Dogmatika cards, like, at all. I think I actually full-blown saw my Dogmatika engine 3 times throughout the entire tournament. So that's 5 rounds of best 2 out of 3. Game 3, I ended up getting into my Dogmatika engine and pretty much locked them out of the game. And he was very surprised at seeing Dogmatika Cyber Dragon, so I was pretty pleased about that. So we ended up being Sprite round 1. Round 2 was the Pearly player, and while the guy was totally cool and explaining a lot of his stuff, I just wasn't sure what he could play through and what to negate or what to stop. So once he got to his big monster, like, I couldn't get over Noir. It was rough. He was drawing so many cards. Like, Ash Blossom was basically useless. I didn't know what to side in either, so I sided in like Cosmic Cyclone, and somebody had said Droll was good against Pearly, but I never saw Droll. I did see Cosmic Cyclone, and I was able to hit the continuous spell, but he just was eventually able to play through it. Oh, I remember what happened round 1. I thought I was gonna win round 1. So I started off with Maximus, because Maximus was I ended up Nadir. I played Nadir Servant, got Ecclesia, got Maximus, and I got Maximus out, but he had Drolled me, so they were the only monsters I had. I ended up playing Triple Tactics Talent, looked at his hand, he had 1 engine card, the continuous spell, and I sent it back to deck, and he top decked the continuous spell, and he was just able to slowly recover from that, and I couldn't put him to sleep. And then game 2, he just completely blew me out. So that was my first experience with Pearly. Definitely some stuff I gotta look into. Round 3 was against the Marine Cess player. Like I said, the dude was a jerk, and I was kind of checked out. He was playing. I mean, we had a big advantage against Marine Cess because of the fact that we can contact Fuse even when he puts all the cards on his monster. But I got so scared of the hand trap that they have, the trap card, and I kept on trying to play around it, and I messed myself up, and I realized that Sphere Mode is not great for this deck unless I open up Dogmatika cards. So it was really weird, and he just playing him just put me in a bad mood, so he got it. Now my 4th match was against Black Wings, and we just absolutely stomped that poor guy. We won the dice roll. We opened up Dogmatika. He couldn't play the game. he literally got the entire board Infinity Dragoon window. He couldn't do anything. And then round 2, he went first, and he set up a subpar board that we snapped with ease because we just searched out Altana and sent all the stuff to the graveyard and then proceeded to OTK. It was nice seeing the deck do what it do. And then round 3 was Gold Pride, where it was very back and forth. He managed to steal game 1. Game 2, I managed to grind him down and literally just stopped him from playing the game every chance I could. At one point, he ran out of cards in his extra deck because we maximised him, I think, 4 times. It was fun. But like I said, we went into time, and that's why we ended up with a draw. But for my first tournament back in Yu-Gi-Oh! And God, I don't even know how long it's been since I played, and with a deck I barely had time to play test. I thought I had a good time, and I already thought of ways to iterate on this deck that I've already done. I already actually have all the cards for this deck. So here's a couple things I decided on. I took out Triple Tactics Talent. It's a great card, but every time I use it, it messes me up. It never works out. I think one time I drew 2 cards and drew into an Ecclesia, and that was the only time it ever helped me. So instead, one of the big problems I kept running into was seeing my Dogmatika cards. So we're gonna add another Ecclesia. So hopefully, not that one. Ecclesia to hopefully increase chances of seeing her. And we're also gonna add in Dogmatika Punishment. Now I know Dogmatika Punishment can screw me because of the fact that if I use it, it locks me out of my extra deck for 2 turns. But we have a boss monster in the main deck that we can play even if we're under that lock, which is with Eltanin. We can still Kaiju. If we absolutely have no Dogmatika, we can always just send Titaniclad to get a search. So it can't help us recover. And the last slot, I was really struggling on what to throw in that last slot, and my buddy suggested a genius idea for a tech. With Therion King Regulus. We play enough machines, we have multiple ways to send them to the graveyard. Same thing, like we can Nadir Servant a Cyber Twin if we really want to get Regulus out. And if we're under a Dogmatika lock, like say when we use Nadir Servant, send Garua and draw into him, we can still play him because obviously he's not being special summoned from the extra deck. So he's a fantastic boss monster. We did not decide to make any changes to the extra deck because I actually tried to add in Zeus by taking out Cyber Twin, and that actually screwed me because there were games I actually could have won off Cyber Twin. So I just said, you know what, we're gonna leave it in so we can keep our kill potential. Our side deck. This is a big one. We took out Ash Blossom and Droll and Lockbird's getting mained. That hand trap is so impactful in the format right now that it is crazy not to main it. Every opponent I played used it on me at least once. Thankfully, some of the games we were able to play it, but it shuts down so many decks. It's way too good. Ash Blossom's a good card, but unless somebody really gets hurt by Ash, it just doesn't do enough. Also, fuck Sphere Mode. If you even remotely need your normal summon, Sphere Mode is useless. We also didn't play the Clockwork Knights. I didn't change that. My actual side deck was these cards that you see here, Sphere Modes, and sorry, some of my keys are broken. We actually played 3 droplets in the side because we basically sided in droplet for anything that had monster effects that wasn't Kashtira. And it actually worked out beautifully for a lot of decks because then if you get rid of the right cards, they can't respond, and they basically just have to scoop them up. So I'm keeping droplets in the side. Now, the last 3 cards I'm not really sure about. I wanted to put Nib, but obviously a lot of people know how to play around Nib. It's kind of like a check on if your opponent's competent. I put Triple Tactics in there for now because, you know, you're playing against somebody who has a lot of hand traps, who shotguns monster effects without much thinking. It can be good, but I'm not 100% on what I should put in the side deck. So if you guys know a good idea for the 3rd card in my side deck, let me know. That might be the only card I actually have to pick up. Everything else that's on the board right now I actually have. I thought it was a really good first experience. I'm definitely excited to try out these changes, and I have the opportunity to go to one more local before the regional, so hopefully we'll actually be able to do a lot better. And if we decide to take this to that regional and it doesn't do well, then we have other ideas to swap around. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you guys want to get more details on some of the combos or anything else, I do have a video with some combos, but I'm more than willing to talk more about the deck. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links will also be down below. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Later.